Hey folks, you'll remember that the last piece we need to do is the spawning pool, and we had this piece that was roughly shaped like this. What I've done, I've cut down into the piece 10mm all around the area that we want to take out, we want to have as the pool. And what I've actually started to do is just use some of this all-purpose filler to get rid of the rough polystyrene balls and just smooth it out. I've not gone sort of glass smooth, I've just filled in the main areas on this. So what you need to do now is just again think about the actual design of the pool within your spawning pool, and then cut down in about 10mm. What we want is a lip of stone all around the pool, obviously that would contain the water. The water can't be perfectly flat with the top of the pool. And then we need to pour in some of this water effects that I've decided to go with. You can use other things like clear varnish, clear glue, even the PVA glue you can put on, but I'm going to go with the water effects. But we need to put that sort of 2 or 3mm. So if we cut down 10mm, smooth it off because we're going to paint this surface, and then when we've painted it we can then build that back up 2 or 3mm with whatever it is we choose to use as the actual water effect. So go ahead and cut down into your piece in whatever way you've decided. Don't forget to etch in the stone marks on the side, because we'll paint all of this black. We'll create the stone colour again internally, and then we'll paint on something for the water underneath, and then put the water effects on top. I've got some other ideas for what can go on around this, but just concentrating on this piece at the moment. So I'm going to go and finish off just putting the poly filler, as it were, or the filler, the spackle, just to make this a little bit smoother. Okay, so this is where I'm at with the pool, and what I've done, I've finished off the paint job on it, and I've also painted in the edges, as we said, the edges of the stone, it being down 10mm. This has got a thin layer of spackle on it that's dried now, and I painted it, did the black base coat across all of that area where the water will be. And what you can see there just about, I think, is so we've got the black base coat. I then put a thin wash of Regal blue across all of the black to give that the main water effect, and then a mix of Regal blue and Catechin green to get that sort of green murky effect of sort of lichen or plants at the bottom of the pool, and just literally dabbed the brush around until I got to a point I thought it was well covered. And you can't see it on here, I'll try and take a photo later, but on the edges of the pool, so on the edges of that brickwork, it's not going to show, I also just lightly brushed some of the green to suggest sort of algae or moss growing up the side there. Where I cut away just in line with the stone, both there and there, I painted it with the first grey, which I've forgotten what it's called now. Let's just have a check. Codex grey, that's it. So I painted it with the Codex grey, and then the brain's gone. The Fortress grey, to get the base colour of the stone. And the idea there is that the step is in the water, so anything that spawns in here can then go to the first step and then step out onto the pool. But then I put a light green shade over that as well, again to suggest it is under the water and it is getting a little bit of algae on it. But then when we pour the liquid effects across it, and I mentioned I'm going to use the Games Workshop one for this, we can fill that then 2 or 3mm to make it look like both obviously the water and the stone, the step itself, are under the water. Now I'm also making some other pieces here, and what I've got are some plinths that I'm going to place on here around the piece, because I've painted up some old skink lizards that I'm going to try and use as statues. I'll show you those properly later because they're falling all over the place. But that's the basic of the pool now. So we put down a 10 mil, black base coat, regal blue layer for the main water, and then a mix of regal blue and Catechin green to get the the green effect there, ready for painting. So this is the finished skink pool. Finished in terms of painting anyway, we need to put the water on yet. But what I've done with the pool then is remember it's a black base coat, or undercoat, a base coat of regal blue, and then kind of feathering the brush around with some really watered down Catechin green to create the impression that there's a plant under the water, but again kind of blurry painting so that we get the sense that there's depth and you can't see the clean edges of the plants. I've put some of that green around the edges of the stonework as well, in order to suggest, as you see in ponds, the sort of plant life growing up. This stone in the middle is fixed in position, and I've just put some of the green around the bottom as well, again to suggest that the plants are growing up there. What I did then was to go over with a mix of Catechin green and regal blue, just to sort of bring the tone down a bit and again feather the edges into the main area of blue. What I did on top of that then, and what you can mainly see on the stone here, but perhaps you can see in the corner here too, particularly around this side here, is a bit of bestial brown, but again really watered down and just feathered on it, so we get this nice kind of watery effect, which is pretty good. What you can see are these 4 little blue dots here, which are again just a dash of kind of dry brushed enchanted blue, which we use on the skinks to suggest there's something spawning there. And if you can see this little white fleck down here, that's a bit of bleached bone. Again, maybe we're getting a blessed spawning going on there, so that guy's going to come out with the pale skin. If you remember, I foolishly scored the corners here on each side. So I've made these little stands here as well, on which I've put, you can't see them very well, I've put these old skinks I used to have actually. I painted them exactly as we've been painting the stonework, and cut the slaughter bases off, just discarded those, to make them look like statues. And the idea is that these statues are kind of watching over the pool, as it were. Here's our skink going in here to have a look at what's happening in there. So I've placed them on these stands, obviously to cover up that damage that I did, but also to make them look, to just again further suggest these are statues, these aren't characters that are bizarrely painted. So that's our pool. The next step is to pour the water effects. Okay, so we need to pour this to a depth of 2 or 3 millimeters. Now bear in mind, this is the first real time I've done this, so here's hoping I know what I'm doing. Oh, sorry if the camera goes off shot a little bit here, but so you can understand why. Okay, so we've got to try and judge how much is going to give us 2 or 3 millimeters. Interesting. Squidge. This is probably unwise given I'm using one hand already. Okay, let's see if we can move that around a little bit. Get in the corners. Again, apologies if I miss this on camera, but you'll have to bear with me. Yeah, this is a little bit interesting. It's alright, wasn't it? Alrighty, so I think we've got it everywhere, and what I need to do now is then just put this on a really level place. Here's hoping that works.